Hey, it's Alex Miller here with this week's OnStage Colorado podcast. We're right in the thick of the summer season here in Colorado with hotter weather, afternoon thunderstorms, and all of that, and the theater scene is heating up as well. We'll whip around the state here and let you know about some of the shows opening, and then later in the pod, we'll have an interview with Len Matheo, the artistic and executive director of Miners Alley Playhouse in Golden. Len's a really interesting guy with deep experience not only in acting and directing, but with running a business as well. Since he and his partners took over Miners Alley in 2013, they've doubled the yearly income of the theater and have really taken on some ambitious productions. We'll hear about what's coming up on stage at Miners Alley and also about the theater's new status as an equity theater. Okay, let's take a look at what's just opened or is about to open on stage in Colorado. In Aspen, Little Shop of Horrors at Theater Aspen, July 12th through August 17th. Also at Theater Aspen, God of Carnage, running July 19th through August 3rd. In Boulder, Romeo and Juliet is at the Colorado Shakespeare Festival in the outdoor theater on campus there. It runs through August 10th. And also in the University Theater, the indoor theater, part of the Shakespeare Festival is King Charles III, July 20th through August 11th. In Breckenridge at the Backstage Theater, they're doing Into the Woods starting July 17th and running through August 11th. And they're also doing a kids show called Children's Theater Totally Red, which is a Little Red Riding Hood kind of show, running July 18th through August 10th. Down in Colorado Springs, Deconstructing Broadway with Seth Rudetsky at the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College on July 16th. And the Funky Little Theater Company is doing Spamalot, July 19th through August 7th. In the Denver metro area, the Denver Center has Mixed Taste at the Sewell Ballroom through August 21st. And at the Lakewood Cultural Center, the Empire Lyric Players are doing Gilbert and Sullivan's Patience, July 12th through 14th. At the Vintage Theater in Aurora, it's Emma, July 12th through August 18th. And at the Aurora Fox, it's a kids show, Cinderella Eats Rice and Beans, a salsa fairy tale, July 12th and 13th. At the D.L. Parsons Theater in North Glen, the North Glen Players are doing The Wedding Singer, July 19th through 28th. And at the Pace Center in Parker, they're doing The Full Monty, July 19th through August 4th. That's always a really fun show to see. In Conifer, the Stage Door Theater is doing the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, running through July 28th. And in Cripple Creek, it's Grease at the Butte Theater through August 17th. In Evergreen, The Wedding Singer is being put on by the Evergreen Players, July 12th through August 4th. And in Golden, it's Fairfield at Miners Alley Playhouse, July 12th through August 18th. In Greeley, Little Theater of the Rockies is doing Into the Woods, July 18th through August 4th. And in La Junta, the Picket Wire Players are doing Mamma Mia, July 11th through 20th. In Longmont, Jester's Dinner Theater is putting up Nonsense, July 12th through the end of September. And in Silverthorne, Lake Dillon Theater is doing, they're also doing Mamma Mia. It's running now through August 11th. And they have a new kids show starting up called Polka Dots, a cool kids musical, running July 6th through August 9th. In Telluride, it's The Tempest on the Telluride Town Park stage, July 20th through 28th. And in Trinidad, the Southern Colorado Repertory Theater is doing The Last 5 Years, July 12th through August 17th. Wow, it's quite a list, and there are plenty of other shows already underway I didn't even mention. Of course, you can find all of them on our website at onstagecolorado.com, where we've got the listings for all the live theater going on in Colorado. You know, it's a lot of work putting all of these shows in the calendar, and I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Lane Ware in Golden, who's been helping with doing all of that and also compiling a weekly list of shows about to open. So thanks, Lane. Okay, our interview this week is with Len Matheo at Miners Alley Playhouse in Golden. I'll skip any kind of intro here since Len covers things pretty well in our conversation. So here's the interview. So I'm here today with Len Matheo, who's the artistic and executive director of Miners Alley Playhouse in Golden. And this is a very pretty historic theater that's been there in that same space for quite some time, isn't it?
Yeah, Miners Alley has been in Golden since 2003. And before that, it was the Morrison Theater Company, and it was in Morrison for the previous 10 years. So now the official legal name is the Morrison Theater Company doing business as Miners Alley Playhouse.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Okay.
So that's what it says on our grants and applications. So they didn't have to get rid of their 501c3 when they moved.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about how you got to the theater. You started as artistic or as the director not too long ago.
When you say the theater, you mean Miners Alley or the theater?
Let's do Miners Alley for a start.
Okay. Well, I moved to Colorado with my wife, Lisa DiCaro, in 2000. and we ended up moving to Evergreen. We decided we wanted to either live in the city or the country, but not in between. So we ended up in Evergreen, and we ended up just getting involved with the local Evergreen Players, the theater there. And so we just networked around, and we did a lot of theater in Evergreen, and we also did a lot of theater in Denver. I was doing directing and acting, Lisa just doing acting. And then in about 2012, Rick Bernstein, who with his wife Paige Larson ran Miners Alley Playhouse, called me and said, I heard a rumor that you were interested in running a theater. And the rumor was true because in the last year and a half before, Lisa and I had made an unsuccessful attempt to purchase the Denver Vic, the old Victorian, which was for sale, and it didn't work out. The way Lisa tells the story, Lisa DeCar was also my wife, she's told the story that, she said, Rick called her and she said, no, I'm not interested in running a theater, but maybe you should talk to Len. And then I brought in my dear friend Brenda Billings and her husband Jim Billings, and because I knew that we couldn't do this alone. I knew that we had some money, but we couldn't do it alone. And I knew that Jim and Brenda had invested money at in Evergreen and other places, and we were also friends, which was the fun part. So I said, hey, you guys want to run a theater? And we talked about the kind of theater we wanted to do. And to make a long story short, at that point, we said, let's do it. And we took over the theater in 2013 as the legal owners. And owner is a mixed term because it's a nonprofit, so we were running the theater. And then in 2014 was our first official season. 2013 was already on the books for that year. We did not pick that season artistically. So that's how we got to Golden. And then we ended up moving there. My wife and I and my 11-year-old daughter, we ended up moving there. And my daughter Ella goes to school in Golden. And so we're members of the community.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen Ella on stage. She's a fantastic young actress.
Very. What's neat is it's easy for her. She said, Dad, if I don't become an engineer or anything like that, or I could always just fall back on acting. I just laughed to myself, like, I was like, but that's how she thinks because it's easy for her. She just doesn't really think about it.
Right.
And I think that's good, that when something that is a hard skill at first just becomes something that you do.
Yeah. Always easier when you start as a kid, like skiing or anything else. Right?
Exactly, like skiing. That's a great example.
Yeah. So what about your own theater career? Did you start out acting and directing?
I started acting in high school. It quite possibly saved my life. I was kind of one of those burnout kids. I was doing drugs and stuff like that, and I was into music. I was always an artistic person, but I found the theater kids, and suddenly they weren't doing all that stuff. And I got into the high school play. I became the lead, and I decided theater was what I wanted to do, and I went to college for it. I lived in New York City, in the New York City suburbs. I went to a college called SUNY New Paltz, State University of New York at New Paltz. And then after that, it was a great experience. I ended up moving to New York City and became an actor. I got an agent right away, so I thought, my life is set.
What year was that you moved to New York?
After school was 87. Okay. 1987.
So we were there at the same time.
Really? Were you living there?
Yeah, 88 to 91.
And were you acting as well?
I was not, no.
Yeah. So anyway, I was there, and the blessing that my parents gave me, my parents were pretty secular people. They didn't really hang out with many people, didn't have many friends, but what they did love to do was go out to dinner and go to theater. And they had subscriptions at the time to, and this is in the late 80s, Manhattan Theater Club, Circle and Square, Circle Rep, Playwrights Horizons. And so they took me to the theater all the time. Yeah. And one of the greatest, I did take acting classes, obviously in college. I continued with Terry Schreiber in New York and Vivian Madelon, who became one of my mentors. But I learned the most about theater by going to see great theater. And I think that's something that you don't get enough of in a smaller community such as this. Now, to be fair, the theater, especially over the last 10 years, has gotten so much better here, where you have really high grade professional work, not just say at the Denver Center or the Lort theaters, but at smaller tier 3 theaters.
And not just in the metro area either.
No, all over,
theaters,
up in Summit County and all over the place. So Denver, surprisingly, because I don't know many other places like this, has a really thriving professional theater scene. And I use the word professional not just to mean union actors, but people who really do this for a living, as opposed to community theater.
Right.
And community, not in a bad sense of the word, but community theater, meaning we're just doing this to have fun and to create more community. But yeah, that's how I got involved in theater, and I took directing classes, and I didn't really direct much in New York, but when I came here I started directing, and I really found that I like directing more than acting. Acting's hard work for me. I'm pretty good, but it's work. Directing is again, it was the work. Vivian Matalon, who is a man, just recently passed away. Actually, he was one of the. I found that out from watching the Tony Awards.
Oh.
He was one of the people they profiled on the in memoriam section, and but he was my mentor in acting and directing, because he taught acting like he directed, and I realized, wow, you can really now I know how to tell the story using the director's major tools, which is actors. And of course, honoring the script and the actor. So he became my mentor, and that's what I started doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great story. And so at some point, you when's the last time you actually walked the boards?
It was in 2014 at Miners Alley. I did The Odd Couple. I played Oscar, and James O'Hagan Murphy played Felix.
Okay.
And Rob Kramer directed it, and it was a very successful production. It was our most successful production to date at that time. I just haven't done it since 2014. That's not true. I think in 2015, Lisa and I read a production of Love Letters, A.R. Gurney's play, and we've done that before. And but really walk the boards has been a while. Mm-hmm. And the longer I stay away from it, the more nervous I get about doing it. It's not a second nature,
It's been 2011 was the last time I did it.
You did?
Yeah. I was really active in the 90s, really, before I got married and had a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, thinking ahead now to Miners Alley, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about, so you're a stakeholder, obviously, in the theater, and there's a whole business side to theater that we don't often talk about, but I mean, the calculations of you got to put asses in seats in addition to doing good theater. How do you strike that balance with your?
Well, I had a real blessing in the sense that when I was in New York, I got there in 1987, and then I got divorced. I got married in 1990, and then in that I realized I was trying to be an actor, and I was waiting tables more than I was acting. I was going to classes, so I was learning a lot. It was still good time spent. But then I got a part-time job at a health club called Manhattan Plaza Health Club as a salesperson, and I was really good at it. And I went from making like $20,000 a year as an actor to suddenly making $70,000 a year. And one of my clients in the health club sales was a casting director. I don't even remember her name anymore, but she was really cool. And she said to me something which I've said to some people myself. She said, if you can do something else and be happy, as happy as you are acting, you should do it, because this career, for the most part, is struggle and a lot of hard work, and don't know where your next dollar's coming from. And I took that to heart, and I ended up just becoming very successful in the health club industry and sales and management. And I went to business classes. I went to Disney University, which was in Orlando at Walt Disney, one of the best business schools. And the reason I'm telling this whole story is when we got to running the theater, I had the advantage of knowing how to run a business.
Sure.
Now, a for-profit business, as opposed to a nonprofit, and that's a whole other story. And Jim Billings also is a very successful business person. So we would look at the P&L, the profit and loss statement for the theater, and see that it lost money, or we would say, everyone would say, wow, we had a good month, we only lost $2,000. I'm like, only lost that's bad. Yeah. You can't run a business losing money. And we just, so I learned about the nonprofit side. So I had this experience in business, and I also was under no illusion that, yes, there were people there who were supporting us, who loved us, who would come to the theater no matter what we did.
Right.
But if we wanted to do good, if we wanted to succeed and grow and grow and grow as a business, we had to give people a reason to come to the theater. And the audiences had to have what I'll call a theater experience, where they laugh a lot, like you would with Complete Works, or you would have a good cry, which I think is kind of essential, or where you would think hard, and you'd have this theater experience, which was an emotional experience in the theater. And so I said, people are not coming, they're coming because they do love us, but they're coming because we're entertaining them and they love coming for the product. So I put that into everything we did. We made it a very customer-centric experience. And honestly, I was always about treating people like family, but with Brenda, who most people know this, but passed away in 2016. Suddenly, she had a brain aneurysm. But Brenda really made that, said, we take this to the whole next level of we feed everybody. We pay them well. We pay them on time. Someone told me once that there are two things you don't mess with an actor. It's their money and their food. Right? And we really took that to heart. So we said, we're going to pay people well. We're going to treat people well. We're going to give them free drinks. And we basically have put the community into the professional theater. It's a professional theater, but it feels like a community environment. And so that's how we put butts in seats. We started as a $350,000 a year theater, and now we're almost $700,000. Mm-hmm. And most of that is earned income. Because, again, as I told you, the part of this business I didn't understand at the time is the fundraising part. Right. I just don't have any experience in it. We did a fundraiser every year, and we got money from SCFD, but the only way I knew how to make money was to sell more tickets.
Right.
I mean, that's the best thing I could do. And so, I mean, we're 80% earned income. Now, that's changing. We just hired somebody, Leslie Rutherford, who was 11 years at Town Hall. She's our marketing and audience development person, and we are going to try to now attack the fundraising side to try to take that to the next level so that we can grow to the next level.
Right. So you want to pay the actors more. You don't want to raise ticket prices necessarily.
Not too much. I mean, our highest ticket price is $36, and that's Friday and Saturdays. And then we have lower prices on Sunday, and then we have prices in the 20s on Thursday. Right. And then, of course, we do free previews, and we give away money to the Denver Actors Fund. I think that's one of my definition of a nonprofit, of a good nonprofit, that it gives back to the community more than it receives. And for instance, if two people go out to dinner across the street from us, they've spent more money at that restaurant than they did on my theater tickets. And I think that's good. I think that's the way it should be. Right. So yeah, that's the formula. Honestly, the formula is to do really great work consistently. Because I think, as somebody who now does as a theater critic, you would agree. If you keep going and you always like it, you'll go back. If you go and then a couple times you go and the shows just aren't very good, even as an audience member, you start going, oh, I don't know if I want to go back. And so you have to be consistent. I would always guarantee this to any audience. I would say, if you might not like the play we're producing, but I will guarantee you they will be some of the best, if not the best actors in town, and some of the best production values that little space can provide. whether you like the play or not. So even with, say, Queen of Conspiracy, which was a new play, has, it's a little, it still needs more workshopping, but it was a really great experience. The acting was fantastic, I believe, and the production values, considering the size of the space, were fantastic.
Oh yeah.
And so we do our best.
I mean, that's one of the things that I really love about Miners Alley. I love the mix. You did Our Town, you did Lungs, and an original piece from Josh Hartwell, Queen of Conspiracy. So there's a really nice mix, but it's consistently well done. And like going to what you're saying, when you go into Miners Alley, it's like there's a nice bar area and there's good beer on tap, and it feels very homey and nice, and it's a nice size theater. So yeah, it's really, I think it's kind of like one of like my ideal of a really great theater in so many ways. So and it's, I think a lot of people are really, I think Miners Alley is really, in the last few years, has just been like one of those theaters that's really risen to the top.
Thanks, I feel the same.
So now you're looking to kind of extend that quality, and so tell me about the recent, so Miners Alley became, I think, the 9th theater in Colorado?
Equity? If what I said in the article was the 9th, or actually the 10th, because I didn't realize, and it wasn't publicized, that Betsy, Boulder Ensemble, had also done this about 2 months before we did.
Okay.
And I didn't know. But
10.
we're one of a handful of equity theaters. We're what's called Equity SPT, which means Small Professional Theater, and we're the first tier, the lowest tier. The ones in the area are Betsy, us, Curious, Aurora Fox, Creed is one. Lake Dillon in the state of Colorado, and those are the SPT theaters. And then the other two big ones are called LORT theaters, League of Regional Theaters. That's the Denver Center and the Arvada Center are bigger. They're a bigger camp. But what it gives us the ability to do is to pay actors more. It gives us the ability to bring actors into the union if the actor wants to, and to also give union actors health insurance through their union. I mean, I am, again, with all my business background, I would have to say I don't know if the union is a positive thing in this day and age in a lot of businesses throughout the world or the country. The big but is in the arts, in music, in theater, in film, from the production side, unions are really important because you could get these people to work for hardly anything. Actors want to work, and producers will take advantage, especially bigger producers will take advantage of that and not pay them as much as they should. So I think the union is really important in the theater world, in the entertainment world. And so I'm really proud that we're doing that. We also just started offering health insurance to our employees.
Wow.
We have like 4 full-time employees. And that's a big deal, I think. I think health insurance is one of those things that until the government fixes it, we as people got to fix it. It's an issue for me. It's my political issue. If I had one, it'd be healthcare, as a person. But anyway, but doing that gives us access to more actors. But honestly, it costs us more. But we're making more by selling more tickets. So, and as a nonprofit, it's not my goal to just keep making money and pleasing my shareholders. My goal is to use that money and to do more and implement more of my mission as we go. So that's why we hired Leslie. That's why we're spending more money on our actors, and we're spending our non-union actors too. So we're not going full union. But as an SPT theater, we just have a responsibility to hire some union actors and to advocate for the union, and we are doing that.
Okay.
So that's exciting. That's an exciting development.
Yeah.
Another exciting development is that the city of Golden, after me hectoring them for 5 years, has bought a new building and is moving their city offices there to part of it, but the majority of the building they're going to use for what they're calling a civic center. But what that means is museums and theater. So talking about building a new theater.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, about the space, if that was, your forever space, or if you're always looking, because theater's always...
Well, one of the challenges we have is that we pay, before any subsidies, we pay almost $6,000 a month in rent, which is a lot for a nonprofit. Most places, and I mean, Lakewood, Littleton Town Hall, Lake Dillon, Aurora Fox, just name every big theater.
Backstage theater.
They all have either the city owns the property or they subsidize it a great deal. The city of Golden is now giving us $20,000 a year, so we still pay about $3,400 a month in rent. $3,600, I think, actually, now that I think about it. But we're in talks with our current landlord to see the possibility of keeping the space, working with the space. What we don't want, we will always have intimate productions. We can always configure a stage to give you that intimate theater. But I think what your response is, one of the reasons, as you said, you like going there, is that you feel like you're walking into a small bar, hanging out with people, and then you're in a small theater and you got that, and we don't want to lose that in a giant space. How we do that, I'm not very sure, but that's kind of a collaboration, I think, between architects and designers and the theater.
Well, if you look at like Dillon, I mean, of course they had $8 million, but they did a mix of a big flex space and then a black box, smaller theater. That's kind of nice.
Right, but they don't still. I mean, they don't have, at least. And now, to be fair, I haven't been there during a performance. They don't have that kind of small, kind of saloon-y bar feel, a community type bar feel. I don't know if you can. And to grow that much, we currently seat 130 people. We want to grow to a black box of 200, which is kind of like the Arvada Center's black box. And maybe a bigger stage of, say, 300, which, like, say, Lakewood Cultural Center is a 300-seat theater. So we're in talks with them. And the School of Mines, Colorado School of Mines, which is our neighbor, is also conducting a feasibility study as we speak to build a hotel. It's right at 19th and 6th, the main area, when you 6th Avenue and 19th when you come in. There's an old Ford dealership there, and they're going to put some dorms there, and they're talking about putting in a performing arts center. So Golden is just, honestly, it's kind of exploding right now in a lot of ways, in good ways.
Cool. Well, that's all exciting stuff. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming up. You have 2 more shows this season, or I know you've got
correct
Fairfield,
3.
And then the Christmas show.
Fairfield, then Once, the musical. Fairfield is a regional premiere of a play by Eric Coble, who's done a bunch of work at the Curious Theater. They've premiered some of his work, and it's about a school in a suburban district in Ohio that is trying to integrate black children into the elementary school, and it's a satirical comedy, and basically everything goes awry when they try to celebrate Black History Month, and they really make a mess of it. And it's an uncomfortable type of satire. You will laugh, but sometimes you might feel uncomfortable. People use language in the show. The N-word is used, and sometimes by white people. But again, it is a fantastic show. I couldn't believe how wonderful it was when I read it. And making her directorial debut on that show is Jada Suzanne Dixon. Jada does a lot of work at Curious. She's, I think, one of the best actresses, and now I can tell you she's an amazing director as well. She's assisted directed a lot of Curious and some of their bigger shows, but this is her directorial debut.
Oh, wonderful.
And then we're doing the musical Once, that I'm directing, and I'm very excited about it, because we're gonna bring it into the streets of Golden. We're gonna have musicians busking on the streets during pre-show. We're gonna, if you know our space as you do, doing a concert type show in that space is just a thrill. When you can be 5 to 10 feet away from somebody who is just playing a fiddle on fire, it is just thrilling to watch. And of course, Once is such a great story in itself. So that's in September.
I'm not familiar with that show. What's that one about?
Once was started as a movie. There was a movie called Once. It's a small independent film from Ireland, and it just it got Oscar nominations. It just charmed everybody. And they made a musical of it. And in, I think 2012, it won the Tony Award for Best Musical. And it's set in Dublin, and it's about this Irish guy who's a folk singer, and in his spare time repairs Hoovers, vacuum cleaners. Okay. And he's down on his luck, and his girlfriend has left him, and he's just considering chucking it all, and he ends up meeting this woman who becomes the woman of his dreams and the love of his life. It's a love story. Okay. Who's Czech. And so there's this Czech culture in it, Czechoslovakian culture, and this Irish culture. And it's just this very simple story about them putting together a demo and him trying to go to New York where his girlfriend has moved to win her back. But the whole time, now the true love of his life is sitting right in front of him.
Okay.
So it's a very simple love story, but everybody in the cast plays an instrument. So it's, the ensemble are all musicians, but it is about 12 people in the cast, and they're all on stage playing music. It's wonderful. Mm-hmm. It is just a wonderful experience. Look it up on your Spotify or whatever and listen to the music. I think you'll be hooked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you'll close out the year
with our Christmas show.
Right, which you did last year, right?
Right. We've made it a tradition. Josh Hartwell, who wrote Queen of Conspiracy, did a translation of Christmas Carol. And it's a really cool translation. And we'll be doing it again this Christmas. Christmas shows are kind of like a fundraiser for theaters.
Right.
We like to say buckets of holiday spirit for you and buckets of cash for us.
Yeah.
And then we go into 2020, and we'll be announcing that actually on July 16th.
July 16th, okay.
15th is our announcement party for our subscribers, and then so they'll get the first look at it, but then July 16th we'll make it public.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know you can't talk about that, but I was just going to ask: is it a similar mix of something old, something new, something original?
Hopefully we'll have a regional premiere in there. We'll have our philosophy is that theater is about acting, but it's also about playwriting. It's the writing, and so our thing is great scripts. It has to be a great script. So we will have a classic script. We'll have something very funny. We'll have probably, in other words, every single playwright that we produce or composer will have won a Tony Award or a Pulitzer. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of where we stand. We always produce work by the top-notch writers. And then from there, you have a great director who knows how to helm that, who obviously casts it correctly and has the right production team and knows how to tell that story. And then I think you're guaranteed to have a great production. Yeah.
Great. Well, it sounds like all kinds of interesting things up ahead for Miners Alley, and look forward to seeing Fairfield for sure coming up here soon.
Yeah.
And thanks
July
a lot.
12th.
Okay, July 12th it starts. And when does that run through?
August 18th. Okay. All our shows have a 6-weekend run. With the exception, hopefully, of the musical. We're doing our musical in the fall this year because we can actually possibly extend it if it does well. Uh-huh. Our musicals tend to bring in a lot of people, but they usually cost so much they don't really make any money. So hopefully we're going to change that and get the best of everything by having the ability to extend it. We'll see if it works.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to us, Len, and best of luck with Miners Alley.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right.
Well, what a great story about how to create a successful theater by focusing equally on the art, the business, and the community. It's sure been a winning formula for Miners Alley, and I'm looking forward to seeing Fairfield, and we'll have a review of that on the website. Other reviews coming up will be for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory at the Denver Center and Crowns at Vintage Theater in Aurora. And next week on the pod, I should have an interview with the director of Crowns, the amazing Bebby Hart. She's one of Colorado's busiest theater people, both on stage and in the director's chair, and a lot of fun to talk to, so be sure to listen in next week. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the OnStage Colorado podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you at the theater.